Welcome to this short Vinyasa style yoga class. Today we're going to be looking at yoga through the lens of non-duality. We're going to focus on our breath, and today we're going to use Ujjayi breath, which is a warming breath. It uses the same mechanism as if you were fogging a pane of glass, so a slight constriction in the back of the throat, and it may help to use the hand as though you're pretending to fog up your hand. And once you have that figured out, you just maintain the same breath with a closed mouth. And we use our breath to help regulate the nervous system throughout a practice so that when any discomfort arises, we can work through that. This is helpful in non-duality because we're learning not to identify with our sensations and our thoughts, but to allow them to come up and to pass. So sometimes when we engage in strenuous exercise, the body sends stress signals and says, something's not okay. And we learn to say, this is not me. This is just something that is coming up. So taking just another moment here to really hone in on the breath and feel the warmth rising within the chest and the abdomen. So now we're going to find our way to child's pose. We're going to bring the feet together, the toes together at the back of the mat, and the knees wide to the edge of the mat. And then we're going to drop the hips. We can use a blanket there to take the pressure off the knees if we like. So dropping the hips and then lowering the torso and the arms out in front and releasing the back of the neck. I like to start class here because it brings the focus on introspection, going inward, rather than focusing on what's happening outside. We're going to stay here a little bit longer before we start introducing movement. So finding length in the spine, breathing into the back of the body, finding expansion there in that fascia, in that connective tissue in the back of the body that tends to hold a lot of tension. And when you're ready, slowly lift up and we're going to come into tabletop position, knees hip width, hands shoulder width. And we're going to come into cat-cow, rolling the spine upward and dropping the neck on the inhale, and then releasing the spine downward, lifting the neck up on the exhale. And you can play with this a little as I'll demonstrate, rolling side to side with the inhale on the body rising and the exhale on the body falling. We're going to come into spinal extension. Right arm in front, left leg long and back through the heel. As though you're extending the spine through this exercise. And on exhale, release back to tabletop position. And inhale, left arm long, long through the right heel. And then on an exhale, releasing back to tabletop position. Now we're going to lift the hips up and back and come into our first downward facing dog. And in this pose, we're looking for a long spine, and our focal point is our belly button. So you'll want to focus the eyes in that direction, and that helps us to release the back of the neck in this pose. You can pedal out the feet if you'd like, if you want a little more motion in that. And then on an inhale, bending the knees looking forward. Exhale, step or hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, we're going to half lift and look forward. Exhale, releasing for forward fold. And inhale, arms all the way up, lift up. And exhale, release. And I'm turning to the side to demonstrate. And this is crescent moon pose. Inhale to the right with the right hand gripping the left wrist. Exhale back to center. Left hand gripping the right wrist. Inhale to the left. And exhale, release back to center. And swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release. And we're going to shortcut into our first vinyasa, stepping back into plank, dropping to the knees, the chest, and the chin. Untuck the toes and lift up into baby cobra. Release that, and we're coming up back into tabletop position and then through to downward facing dog. So this is a modified vinyasa flow. We're going to stay here for a few breaths. So as you settle in here, long in the spine, weight in the feet, and focal point is the belly button, so drop the back of the neck. And notice if you can open the shoulder blades in the back, so round them forward so that the eye of the elbow is pointed toward the front of the mat. And inhale, bending the knees, looking forward. Exhale, step or lightly hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift up, arms overhead. And exhale, release. We're going to come into our first full vinyasa. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive, release. Forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release. Step or hop to the back of the mat. Come into plank pose. Dropping to knees, chest, and chin. Inhale, baby cobra, untuck the toes. Exhale, release. Lift the hips up and back into downward facing dog. So settle in, recall your cues, bring the hips back. Feel the weight shifting more into the feet. The spine is elongating. Inhale, bend the knees, look forward. Exhale, step or hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, release, mountain pose. And this is Surya Namaskar B, starting with chair pose. Sitting back as though you're sitting in a chair, engaging the abdomen, arms overhead. Exhale, release, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release, and step or hop back. Going through our vinyasa, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, baby cobra. Exhale, release. Tuck the toes. Lift into tabletop and then into downward facing dog. Inhale, warrior one. Right leg forward. Back leg 45 degrees, arms overhead. Release and flow through. And there's a bug on my mat, so it's a slight detour here. Here we go. And flowing through, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, baby cobra. Release and come through tabletop into downward facing dog. This time, left leg forward, back foot 45 degrees, arms overhead, and release. And stepping through, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, baby cobra. Exhale, release. And coming through tabletop into downward facing dog. This time we'll hold this for several breaths. Finding length in the spine, looking at the belly button, weight into the heels, rounding those shoulders forward. This pose can feel like a lot of work at first, but eventually you'll find it is a resting pose. Another breath. And lift the head. Inhale, bend the knees, look forward. Exhale, step or hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Got a little camera tilt here. Inhale, back into chair pose. And then exhale, releasing, coming up to mountain pose. And inhale, step the right leg back. We're coming into warrior one, and then immediately opening into warrior two. That back foot is at a 45-degree angle. And our focus is over our front middle finger. Now we're going to straighten the front leg, and if comfortable, you can bring that back leg in a little bit forward. And you're going to inhale, reach out forward, exhale, releasing to the ground or a block. And that's triangle pose. Now we're going to come into extended side angle. You can use the block at the same height or lower, and then you're going to extend the right arm overhead, creating a long line in that side body. And then inhale, coming up back into warrior two. Inhale, flip the front palm up. Exhale, coming back into reverse warrior. And then we're going to cartwheel the arms down, release to the mat, and coming into a low lunge, arms overhead. And releasing, exhale, hands to the mat. We're going to inch the back foot forward and come into a gentle standing split. I want the hips to be level. And releasing that. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, arms overhead, lift up. Exhale, release, mountain pose. And other side, so left leg back, 45-degree angle, coming into warrior one and opening into warrior two. And that front shin should be about perpendicular. Straightening the front leg for triangle pose, Trikonasana. Inhale, reach, and exhale, release to the block or to the ground. Arms should stack on top of one another. Gazes to the sky. And coming back up, bend in the knee, coming into extended side angle. Block at the lower level if you'd like, or you can come to the ground. You can also use the front thigh, but we don't want to dump our weight into that. And then gazes upward. I'm going to inhale, release out of that, come back into warrior two. Inhale, palm facing up, exhale, releasing, coming into reverse warrior. Inhale, and exhale, cartwheel, releasing to the mat, coming down into low lunge, arms overhead. And releasing, hands to the mat, inch that back foot a little closer and come into a gentle standing split. And releasing that. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift up, arms overhead. Exhale, release, mountain pose. Then we're going to come into the balance portion of our class. So we're going to kickstand the right foot out. And we're coming into tree pose. And the right knee is open. And we can, if we like, place the foot on the shin or the inner calf or on the inner thigh, but we don't want to place it against the knee. That places strain on the joint. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. And if you'd like, you can add the arms overhead, interlocked. And you want to engage that outer left thigh so that you're remaining close to center here. We don't want to bow our hip out to one side. And coming straight into hand to big toe pose. You can do this with the knee if you like, pulling the knee to the chest, or you can grab the big toe with the peace fingers, the first and second fingers, and extend the leg out long. And then the left hand is on the hip. And again, engaging that outer thigh to create a strong foundation. And in these balance poses, we're finding a stationary object, something about 4 to 6 feet in front of us, to help us stabilize as well. And releasing that gently and shaking out the left leg. And now kickstanding the left foot, the right knee wide, where you can come to the inner calf or the inner thigh, whatever's comfortable. You can see that I have a favorite. One side might be stronger than the other. So finding a fixed point, soften the face. It shouldn't be effort so much as centering. So relaxing into this pose. And releasing, coming straight into hand to big toe, or you can hold the knee. And that right hand is going to be on the hip, engaging the outer thigh for stability, and extending if you like. There's another option in this pose of bringing the leg out to one side, in this case the left side, and bringing the gaze to the right. But this is where I am. And slowly releasing back to center. Shaking out that right leg. All right, we've come to the end of our standing poses. We're going to do a little bit of core work here. So we're going to come into boat pose. So find a good position on the mat. And then you're going to sit up, tucking the chin so that the back of the neck is long and hanging onto the knees. And then engaging the abdomen and slowly leaning back, lifting the feet off the floor. And we can hold this, or we can release the hands off of the knees, holding. And if you're shaking, that's perfectly fine. And releasing back to the mat. Now that we're warmed up, we're going to use this time to open some space in the body. So we're going to open the hips and the waist. So we're going to come into supine spinal twist. And you can just allow the knees to fall to one side, or you can shift the hips now to the left and then allow the knees to fall to the right, or you can wrap the left leg around the right, depending where you are. And the arms are going to be cactused, so a right angle in those elbows. And you want to keep your left shoulder grounded to the mat with the gaze over the left shoulder. And you can take some breaths into any tension or resistance that you feel in the hips or in the waist. Just allow that space to fall open with each breath. And coming back to center, shifting those hips if you moved them, and then finding your version of this pose on the other side, allowing the knees to drop to the left. Grounding the shoulders, and then the gaze is over the right shoulder. If you notice any emotional resistance coming up with this, that is exactly the work we are doing, exactly why we are doing this. So just welcome it into your experience. The emotions are not you. They come up and they go, and you are still here. So we're learning to weather the storm of those emotions and to observe them, because that is who we really are. We are the observer of this human experience that we are having. And as we begin to cultivate inner stillness through this practice, we are coming home to who we are. Releasing that, coming back to center. We're going to come into happy baby. So you use your first and second fingers to grab onto the big toe and allow the legs to fall toward the chest and out to the side. And if you want to, you can rock side to side. I generally enjoy stillness in this pose, but it's whatever you need on whatever day that you're practicing. Allowing length in that low back, we've warmed it up and now we're allowing space. And releasing, coming out of that, and we're coming into Shavasana. We're resting here. We've earned it. We're using this time to find stillness and to find center here. So allowing the lower back to fall into the mat, allowing the toes to fall wide, releasing any tension in the hands, allow them to open. Notice any furrowing between the eyebrows, allow that to release. If your tongue is engaged, a lot of us tend to push our tongues against the roof of our mouth. Allow it just to fall away. Allow your breathing to soften. Just be fully present with what is happening around you. If you like, you can begin to reintroduce movement before you get up. Wiggling the fingers and toes, fluttering the eyelids. And then before you sit up, if you'd like, you can roll over onto the right side. And when you're ready, you can come to a seat, sitting on a blanket if you like, so that your knees are lower than the hips. Thank you so much for joining me today in this practice. The consciousness that I am honors that same consciousness within you. Namaste.